Welcome, everyone, to the Outside Noise Album of the Month podcast for March of 2025. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing great, Michael.
Oh my God, we're doing so good.
I feel so good. My taxes are done.
Everyone's taxes are done. If yours aren't done, you are fucked. And I'm going to tell the IRS.
It's probably too late by the time you're watching this.
Yeah, it probably is too late,
gotcha.
unless you got an extension. Anyway, so the albums that we're talking about today are albums that won their respective album of the week. So we're going to start with the album that was the album of the week on 3/7. It's Flamingo Tower by Monde UFO. You want me to run through them all, or are we just talking about each as we go?
Let's keep
We say this every week. I love it.
On their toes. Let's make it a surprise. Let's
jump in with this.
Let's start with Flamingo Tower by Monde UFO. What do we have to say about it?
This album is like indie tronica, but done with such like intention and weirdness.
Yeah.
That it's totally like this has maybe been my most spinned album like of the ones on this list, and it is still just as bizarre and mysterious to me as it was when I first listened to it. There's not a ton of information like about the album, about like the lyrics to this album, about the making of the album. There's a lot of like electronic stuff going on, and then there's also saxophone and guitar, and all of that stuff is usually like very hi-fi, and then other instruments are really fuzzy and distorted in the mix. So it just creates this really bizarrely layered and dynamic listening experience.
Yeah, it sounds like a well-rounded thing, like sonically.
Yeah, I like how the vocals are just right in the middle with all of it. Like, it's just, like, more instrumental than it is, like, I know what you are saying.
There is
Voice
much
as
my best
instrument.
friend.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it has some of that like krautrock sensibility. It's very, psychedelic, calls back to traditional psychedelia, and then puts you on your toes because it's willing to go far beyond that. But it has some of that some of that Baroque pop aesthetic too.
Yeah, and it's very hazy and dreamlike, and yeah. This was a great release. I was really into this. I feel like we've heard a lot of indie tronica stuff kind of coming back, but this example really, I think, knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, I think with like indie tronica, indie sleaze, now's a good time for me to bring up something that me and Kalen have been discussing, and that is swag revival.
Okay.
Does this have swag?
Tell us how the swag is in this release. Tell us what the swag is about.
I feel like it has swag.
That's true, but you have to like this can't just be like if you get it, you get it, and if you don't,
I'm just
you don't. I
drawing
want
lines.
to know.
I'm seeing things in the culture, and I'm making connections, and if you don't see it now, you're gonna look back and it's all gonna make sense.
I think it's framing this as part of the indie sleaze revival is really interesting. It's like the most experimental with, like, possible end of that. Yeah. But it absolutely was present during that time as well.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this reminds me a little bit of like Death Cab for Cutie.
Yeah.
Too, or like the Postal Service might be a more apt.
And I've really enjoyed people continuing to add nuance to the indie sleaze revival and stuff.
That's important to any like revival movement, or else it flames out immediately, right? You gotta start pulling in all the relating little.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think alongside indie sleaze was twee, and we're having the revivals at the same time, and this kind of encapsulates both.
Yeah,
in a way.
Mixes together. It all has a Venn diagram. It all like ends when the other begins. So,
so true.
Super cool. Yeah. Love.
So the next one that won was for the 14th of March, and that is Seeking Darkness by Hurimic. Hurimic is the same artist as Parannoul. Is Hurimic right? The pronunciation?
I think so.
That's what that's what we settled on.
Yeah, that's what we settled on.
I looked at people talking about past releases from this alias, and they all said Hurimic, so I said, Great. So Hurimic is the alter ego of Parannoul, who is already somebody who is anonymous. We know they're based in Korea, and has been making music for a while now. They've had multiple albums that have become cult classics on the internet during the era of, I guess, lo-fi, what am I thinking, bedroom pop, bedroom rock, and emo, the resurgence of Midwest emo. So this person's music always dovetailed into all of that. It was also influenced by like shoegaze. It's very shoegazy.
Yeah. Think like Weatherday, Nouns, things like that were also big in the like maybe like mid to late 2010s, and still have a big presence online. And a lot of that stuff, I mean, is self-admitted a bit, like amateurish, using what they had available and the influences that were popular at the time to deliver their message of disappointment with life, stagnation, disillusionment, all of that stuff. And all of that comes to a head on this record, which is very like Japanese style psychedelic almost. It's very abstract. It has like a post-rock vibe, but like that's in the way that it's not rock music, but it uses rock instrumentation. I wouldn't call it post-rock in any other way.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you can narrow this down into one genre. It goes through so many different movements across the hour. Of
long, sprawling, atmospheric tracks hit at the absolute core of the emotions that you already see on Parannoul. So if you like Parannoul, or if you liked it then and your tastes have gotten more adventurous since, or I mean, I still enjoy that kind of stuff, right? Even though I like things that are more experimental. But if you like those kinds of things and you have a taste for things that are a little bit weirder, I would give this a shot. And I think it pairs well with it if you have a little bit of an imagination about it,
And rarely do we cover things that are like this psychedelic. This gets into full on like jam band territory.
Yeah, it definitely verges on that. I think it was still a solo effort,
which is also crazy. Like how you do a solo jam band.
But
and yet
tell us who you are.
Yeah.
Tell us who you are.
Tell us who you are.
We won't tell.
We won't tell.
Breaking news. Yeah. No, we're
face reveal.
Yeah.
Here, live, exclusive.
Here, live, right now. I'm getting
Next
a call. It's Parannoul. Okay.
Oh my god.
So are we moving on to the next one?
Answer the call.
Sorry, it went to voicemail, and my voicemail's not set up, so I actually just
your voicemail box is full. All the
So many
love
voicemails
letters
from all of the other anonymous artists.
Yeah. Okay, so the next album was 45 Pounds by Yahweh Nail Gun, whose show we're Julia is actively getting ready for right now, and we're all snazzed up for.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah,
how time lines up. So
by the time you see this, we will probably have a little short form video about our concert experiments. You can go experience. You can go
our
find
concert
that
experience.
You can go find that experience. So what did we think about their record that they're touring on?
It's pretty cool. It's fucking awesome, dude.
It's pretty cool. All right, so the next one.
It's good and I liked it.
Yeah. So it's noise rock. It has maybe a little bit of a... this word gets beaten to death now, but maybe it has a no-wave edge. I don't know. I'll let you decide that.
I definitely think it does. I'm not an expert on this subject, but I feel it in my bones. I think it's just like it's frantic in that way and loose. I don't know. Yeah. It's really cool. What really strikes me about the record is the percussion.
Yes.
After all this time.
Like that really stands out.
It really shines.
And they have all these really cool little like samples and synths and stuff that are just very glittery. And I'm excited to see how that goes live. I feel like they kind of have two options, is to really bring those to the forefront or kind of let them fall to the back and bring out more like a darker, bassier sound.
Yeah.
But on the record, those little like synth flourishes are extremely important, and they bring in this kind of like light that feels a little bit uncomfortable and weird in such a like aggressive, emotionally charged environment.
Right. And I think that, having it be such I don't know, like negatively charged and like saturated at the same time is what makes it like, so crazy.
Saturated is a great. That's kind of what the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Having them both there is like part of what makes it very special.
Yeah. And this is so like over the top and on like the cutting edge. I think it makes perfect sense to be like the album of the week for this week.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, it was big outside of. I mean, I don't know. Everyone was talking about it in our scene, and I think it even reached outside of that to some people who don't normally give music like that a shot. So that was cool to see.
I would be surprised if many people outside of the underground like super loved this one. It's pretty challenging.
It's pretty challenging, but
it's good. It's good. I know she's looking at me like, what? But it's because
it blew up, and they got they had like lots of interviews. I don't know. I'm saying. I think people liked it.
Yeah, I know it was very critically acclaimed.
Yes.
And I think it's like totally deserving of that.
Yeah. So it's a natural pick for us.
It's hard, I think, maybe to follow on like maybe like a dance way. It makes it like, people are like, I don't know what to do here. It's gonna be interesting at the show.
I'm gonna be dancing.
I know.
That's like what. That's also the favorite part. Like that's what all of these like lead to is like how fun it would be in a community setting just all together.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
I actually never think about that. I listen to it and think about being by myself, looking at my computer.
Are you're doing like a music video in your mind?
Yeah.
You're pretending you're in the music video. You're looking out the window.
Yeah. No. All right. Are we done with that? Well, we'll give you more updates on the on how the show goes. I'm very excited.
Okay, yeah, let's do that last album.
Kneeling by Dan Meyer. So I didn't plan this, but I am wearing the shirt for Agriculture.
Shit.
Dan Meyer's full band. And they're based in LA, and this album is very seeped in that. The band is an atmospheric black metal project. If you haven't heard it, you absolutely have to. They're one of the best in the game.
Yes. They were high up on our year-end list last year for
sure.
Or the year before. Yeah.
Yes.
But when they put out
another one, they'll be at the top of the list again, probably, because we just saw them live and they're still awesome. So,
and this project was awesome too. It was so cool to see the Agriculture sound come through in a totally different context. Well, sort of totally different. The first half of this album is like indie slowcore.
I would compare it to Have a Nice Life if you like that, and I would also compare it to the kind of like shoegazy turn that Deaf Heaven did, and which obviously Deaf Heaven is a very similar band to Agriculture in the first place, so I think that's a natural. So it's, shoegazy, whatever, still has an enormous guitar sound.
Yes, and then that second half of the album goes into pretty intense like raw black metal.
Yes.
Which Agriculture is a black metal band, but this has like a little more darkness to it.
Yeah, it also is like lo-fi in a really interesting way. It seems like it was recorded to, I don't know if it was recorded to analog tape, but it at least sounds like it was.
Yeah, well, that's a part of it at least.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of it was spliced down from multiple, like kind of the way that you get like the old Smashing Pumpkins records where they're like, all right, we got 18 guitar tracks and they're going to turn it to one track and it's going to be super saturated and sound huge.
Yeah, I would definitely say this is another album we could call saturated. Just these big sounds and really densely layered. And like we said, it sort of has this warmness at the beginning that becomes a really intense sort of black metal sound.
Yeah.
Also very LA of him.
Yeah. The first half is
so bright that it gets so
it's kind of two different albums packaged into one. The first half is about the Bible, and the second half is about doomer driving in LA at night.
I don't know if they're totally disconnected though.
They're not disconnected at all because they use that same guitar tone that's found in both, and they use it to do two different things. So I think it's
and
really
even conceptually though, it's cool. These like he sort of imagines like a cult leader being accosted in the way people are tortured in the Old Testament. So there's
there's plenty of activity like that happening in LA. So
that whole like first half of it too reminds me a lot of like Philip K. Dick's Valis story, which is also like a modern retelling of the Old Testament, and it's based on like having a psychotic break and thinking that everything around you is like this reenactment of the crucifixion of Jesus. And now imagine you're in LA.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I mean Old Testament especially is so absurd and violent and everything. It's a great pull, especially for this release especially.
Yeah, it sounds like he was like looking for a source of meaning in his life and opened up the Old Testament and just got more confused.
Yeah, dude.
Many can relate to this.
Many such cases.
Like they should just cut the baby in half.
Yeah. So, do we have any well, I guess before we do honorable mentions or do we pick a winner?
Let's pick a winner.
Okay, so who's got what? What are we voting for? I would go Hurimic.
I'm kind of torn between Hurimic and Dan Meyer.
I would say Yahweh Nail Gun.
I was between Dan Meyer and Yahweh Nail Gun.
Oh, I think
we could do rank choice.
Is what I was most impressed by.
Yeah.
And by the sheer like number of genres that they've packed into this thing.
Right.
And I also love that this is like the alter ego for an artist who's already like solidly popular within the underground.
Yeah, kind of just became popular in a completely separate.
Like, and is already like an anonymous artist, and then just felt the need to like go even deeper. I really respect that. And I love the like Japanese psychedelic sound. And there's even like some more traditional Asian folk music on here too. I'm kind of leaning towards that album, but Dan Meyer's album also hits some of those similar points and has that broader concept behind it that was really interesting.
Great. I would say both of those are true. I mean, Dan Meyer is also. I mean, these were all high on my list, which is really corny to say, but they were all good, and I had a hard time choosing, and I picked Hurimic.
Yeah, I was saying Yahweh Nail Gun and Dan Meyer, and for me, I don't know, between the two, I kind of feel like Yahweh Nail Gun just has the energy, and I align with that, and it's really cool. Dan Meyer's a little more low tempo, which is great, and that's kind of like the whole thing about it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I guess we're mostly between Yahweh Nail Gun and Hurimic, right? Or is Kalen splitting for Dan Meyer so Yahweh Nail Gun wins?
I like Hurimic. Can we just make Hurimic win?
Well, now we're between Hurimic and Yahweh Nail Gun.
Yeah. Well, let's battle it out. So they're two. They're both noisy. But they have a completely different idea of form. You know, it's kind of comparing like apples to oranges. It'd be easier if they were both doing like the same style. But I would say the Hurimic thing. I think it's just such an interesting character study into somebody we had already gotten to know. Stylistically, it's so raw and emotional and transparently emotional, like without really needing that barrier of, you know, like song structure or, you know, like coherent like words and stuff. I think it just does that in such a rare, good way.
I think you could say the same thing about this release.
Yahweh Nail Gun. I mean, Yahweh Nail Gun's a little more structured. Not that that's bad, but I think that's what I like about Hurimic is that it's able to do all that without the structure, which is so unique compared to Parannoul. It's like
that's
complete foil to everything we had seen before.
In Hurimic too, I like that as it gets more intense, it also gets more psychedelic. It's like reaching this like apex of craziness, and then it hits you with this really funky bass line. Mm-hmm. It's just building and building and building, and then it's like, oh, okay, now we're just gonna have a little like dance breakdown. Mm-hmm. Cool. I don't know.
Yeah, but the build-up sustains through all the weird little changes.
Yes,
like
that too.
In a way that like very great psychedelic artists are able to pull off.
Exactly. I think this is a really nice example of good like bad trip music.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like it's not always like nightmare. It's just like, oh, this is like too much.
Exactly. It maps really well onto just the whole like psychedelic experience where it's like, and now time for something completely different, and it just turns into just odd and like chaotic. Absurd and chaotic, and then it'll turn straight back to being something that, you know. Like,
and then it's really chill.
Somebody might just associate with like bad trip. I don't know. I think, and you can map all of that onto the Parannoul music, and it just creates a really interesting story. Yeah, that's my argument.
But Yahweh Nail Gun has cool drums.
The drums are way cooler.
The drums are way cooler.
Come on.
I love that neither of us have anything to say. Like, it sounded really good. What else is there?
Well, as much as I just said, I'll split for Yahweh Nail Gun so we get this
thing. Shit!
That's crazy. That's crazy.
The upset.
Because I also really liked it.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sometimes, listen, it's so funny. When you like it and it's good, you like it and it's good.
I guess we have to tell them tonight.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. We're like, we loved your album, but we did not actually pick it for album.
We just picked it. What do you mean?
If we hadn't done that,
we wouldn't
really
tell
funny.
them.
We should tell them.
They didn't win. What?
Like we're gonna get the
you were for album of the month, but you lost.
In an alternate universe where we didn't pick them, but we still anyway. Do you guys want to talk honorable mentions? Because there were still some good records that
there were so many.
This list there were so many. I have a handful, but I'll go ahead and start off. Sorry. Do you have anything super important to say, Michael? Go ahead.
Oh my God. Well, I was just gonna say really quick. We did have another tie on this cycle of weeks, and it was the Orchestra for Now Plan 75. That's my honorable mention, and it easily could have ended up on this list, but it lost in a coin toss. Wow. It is, if you
50% chance.
If you like the new Black Country New Road, it's from the same scene, has a similar style, the post-rock orchestral Baroque vibe. I'll leave it up to you to go listen to it and judge it for yourself. With that new Black Country New Road album also out at the same time, people are in the mood for that, so I think that should be.
Or if you want orchestral, sort of like neoclassical, contemporary classical, but really weird and scary, I'm going to recommend Minotaur Ananke by Daria Kazimira and Zura Makaradze, because it's pretty much what I just said. Although even calling it contemporary classical or classical really puts it into a box, and it's more
pretty
ritual. We're just playing a variety of instruments and screaming. It's all improvised as well. And it's a real experience.
It's like a labyrinth.
Yeah. Talk about bad trip music, man.
Yeah, that would be that's territory I wouldn't even venture into.
It's not a good
that's
idea.
Unbelievable.
Well, I love that album. It was so cool and like such a cool take on
the Minotaur story.
The Minotaur story and like freaky and folk music.
It's pretty freaky.
So freaky.
It is.
Wow. Speaking of freaky, I'm gonna have to go with Today by Disaster Artist, who was also local to Philly. I did not know that before finding this album because I had been listening to their previous releases. This is like a soft kind of noise punk, a little bit of a country folksy flair to it, and I just think it's fabulous. Maybe I'll see y'all one day.
Wow. I would say for fans of Modest Mouse. Right? Isn't that the one that we said that for?
Did we?
Julia's scared.
I'm like, I don't think. Maybe. You know, if
it
sure.
kind of tracks.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it has that pissed off folk rock manic energy.
Cool.
But this one's a little bit different from their previous releases. They get so like soft in the middle.
They get sentimental.
It's so sweet and it's fun, and this is just the type of thing that I like.
Yeah.
Love. Well, I don't have a really smooth segue like you guys did, but my pick for honorable mention is Bridge of Sand by Bridge of Sand. This is one of my favorites of the month for sure. It's a really beautiful and very intentionally produced hip-hop album. It has very smooth instrumental loops with a lot of really fun sampling and collage mixed in there. Just weird mouth sounds as well. There's almost like an ASMR vibe to it. It's just very closely done. And I really appreciate it. I like that it doesn't really go for total maximalism, but what it does do experimentally, it does very well. I feel like it was very judicious and very well done. And I feel like this is an artist that could easily take off and people could really get into. So, yeah, I've been super into the Bridge of Sand release.
Yes, I loved the production on that record. And then if I can go ahead and pivot into another honorable mention.
So greedy.
Because this is also an underground hip-hop record.
Oh, shit.
Backwash with Only Dust Remains.
Yes.
Although, instead of like really pretty production, it's also scary.
It's also
very
very
crunchy,
scary.
noisy.
It's really scary.
Why are you yelling at me?
I understand.
I know
well,
why.
she talks about it.
I know why.
She goes into, we talked about the lyrics and the story of this album doing something really special with the way that it connects broader societal issues and like catastrophic world events into like the personal level, and how that also like destroys your mental health, and how that in turn like feeds addictive behaviors and all these other like self-destructive tendencies. So if you're feeling that, this is a very cathartic release, and I'm sure it was
to yell
cathartic.
about.
I saw someone on TikTok review this album. I don't know who it was. I'm sorry, but they were like, "I'm genuinely concerned. I hope she's okay."
Yeah. This was really the month of like great experimental hip hop. We also had
For sure.
Did You Enjoy Your Time Here by Prim Rock.
Dude, yes.
And that is a very like free-flowing, free association, somewhat drumless look at like, are you happy? Is your life good? Is the world you live in good? And what are you doing about it? Yeah, very like self-reflective in a good way, not navel-gazy. It's really good. I mean, I think the hip-hop scene is really finally coming off of the trap hangover and is ready to do things that are completely and totally new.
Prim Rock is maybe like the nice therapy version of Backwash.
Yeah, I'd say so. That makes sense.
And I agree. I totally agree, Michael. I think hip-hop's in a very exciting place right now. I've been so into these like extremely strange experimental hip-hop releases. Yeah,
they're good, and they're well written, well produced. It seems like a lot of producers out there are well, not that, a lot of these producers just popped into the scene when it was already like this, but, the whole get rich quick off of the trap hi-hats is over. So these people are, really, making some intense, adventurous art.
That's true. Sometimes for a minute there, it's like, is this beat good?
Yeah.
I can't tell. Yeah.
Yeah, and then one other one that I would shout out real quick.
Ooh, okay.
Of the Highway by Old Star. We saw them at their show, and it was awesome. And their record is like, I don't know, if you like the alternative country thing, it'll be up your alley, like Wilco, Modest Mouse, etc. But it goes deeper than that. It has like these kind of weird, almost psychedelic and noisy tendencies. that are just a little under the surface there with the way that the songs are. It's like when you listen to it at first, you could kind of like get your way through the whole album and not think about it. But then whenever you go back to it, you're like, these songs are structured very strangely in a way that's like really like hypnotizes you almost. It's a very cool record, and they were super cool and nice whenever we met them. So
fuck yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think does that do it, gang? Do we have any more shout outs?
Any other thoughts on your mind?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Los Thuthanaka by Los Thuthanaka.
Oh, yeah.
It's a collab with Chikwi Mamani Kandori and Joshua Shukwimia Crampton, I think. But anyway, it's a
Their
Nashville release. Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry, I'm having to translate in real time because I didn't think about this before.
Experimental Latin dance.
Experimental Latin dance.
Hell yeah.
Also out of Nashville.
I was gonna say that too.
Tennessee.
That's crazy.
I think they have another location tag in their thing too. I think they have ties elsewhere, but yeah.
But I mean, also, maybe that's part of the reason it got picked up is because of where they are, and it makes me happy because Nashville is so like pink cowboy hat. And there's a lot more to it, and I'm happy whenever anything else from the area gets some sugar.
Yeah. This is absolutely. I mean, I know that there's that like dance scene there, which I was not really. The dance scene and the punk scene had a weird beef when I lived there. You had to kind of pick one only.
Even as far as dance goes, there is a very big, specifically Latin dance place there. That also isn't really popular with anyone outside of that community, but it's awesome to see this like breakthrough release come through.
Yeah.
Love it.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah, great. Good month, March.
Good month.
Good month, March.
March.
Thanks everyone for sitting down, talking new music. Congrats to Yahweh Nail Gun. We're super excited to see you guys tonight.
We'll see you in a
I'll
little
talk
bit.
to you later.
We will have seen you when you all see this.
At this point, there's probably a new tape drop. Please go check out our tapes.
Oh, we got a ton of really exciting stuff coming out. We got tapes, we got zines. We're gonna be
spring zine.
YouTube
We're about to come out.
YouTube videos are all over the place. We're gonna be somewhere physically soon. If you're in Philly, you can come say hi to us
at the Richmond Street Flea Market in front of Laundrette Records.
Yeah.
I think we can go ahead and say that.
I think
that's totally fine.
Yeah.
We'll be there. Come say hi. Do we have anything?
Now say bye.
And now say bye.
And now
Bye, everybody.
Bye.